But if they do, they can have it. So they like the autonomy as a teacher to be able to say yes or no. And those teachers that say, no, I don't want it, they don't have it. And we typically don't have issues because they are pretty hard line, don't bring it in my classroom. But I think you're right. I mean, if we had a majority of my staff saying, or in the district saying, 85 to 95%, okay, then nobody wants it anymore. Let's try it.
Realistic is it to get them to keep it out?
Right?
Yeah, it's good to hear that you're listening to your staff
Yeah.
and listening to that feedback from last year, but I absolutely agree with Matt. That's exactly a lot of what I've been hearing as well, from the perception survey to still to this day, staff kind of all over the board, but many saying, get them out. But I also was told too that many staff are reluctant to have to tell the kids no, because they know that then they're gonna get berated from the student. So they don't want that decision to have to be on them, they wanted it to be on administration or in a policy. So that was a part of the component as well that I had heard for some of
I
those
heard
that are a
that
little bit
from
more
one teacher
timid.
today. I heard
And-
the same thing.
Unfortunately, I mean, if we go to if we ban, then a lot of it is going to fall to the teachers to call them out on it. And that's going to take a lot of
Right.
educational time away. In the beginning, maybe it would change after time, but in the beginning, in order to crack down on it, it's going to take a pretty
Right.
substantial
But it'll be
amount of time,
incumbent upon
potentially.
you guys as leaders
Oh,
to
for
make
sure.
sure you're still driving that message
Yes.
and doing that. So I think what would be great for us to do then is perhaps table this and then take an interim survey partway through the year to see how is this going on this specific topic.
I think it's a great idea. I want to just make one thing about the perception thing. The Portage High School didn't ban cell phones. The criteria is instruction time, focused for 50 minutes. They still allowed them in between, I'll call it, different periods. So it's not like a, there was more structure. You have structure. I saw the model from middle school. Very similar, but a little bit different. So part of me says the solution here might be like to take a harder look at this as a total environment from a, I'll call it, from the staff and whatnot. Where are we? Can we move forward in this direction, or do we need to take that higher stance?
Sure.
Motion to table. We'll address this with the survey and we'll address it with the handbook.
I'd still like to move on.
I got a motion on the table.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kevin, I really do believe we do have the motion.
Motion on the table.
I'm fine, I'll make a
Call
motion.
for it 3 times, follow the procedure.
We have a motion on the floor, could you please repeat your motion?
Motion to table the issue.
Okay. We have a motion by Corey and a second by Mark to table this. Further discussion? Yes.
What if it was just like a modified cell phone policy, kind of like what you said? I mean, just not in the classroom, but they can keep it in their locker, they can look at it lunchtime, they can look between classes, just not in the classroom.
That's essentially what we have right now.
Well, I know people who keep them in their pocket.
Most of them do.
They're on them,
They do.
and they
What are you gonna do?
vibrate, and I think it's a distraction because they're probably thinking, okay, I wonder who just texted me. I wonder what that's about. So then their mind becomes unfocused.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to go through kids' pockets.
Well, no, I realize that,
They're
but
gonna be in pocket probably no matter what the policy is.
Correct.
It's just whether you see them, hear them, or hear them. I mean, that's the reality of it. No matter where you are.
This is a discussion stage right now and to table it. Is there further discussion about? Okay, so we do have a motion and a second to table this and come back at a later date.
And address the issues with the school perception survey.
Yeah, we're gonna have another survey. And
Yes.
To your point earlier, I believe we voted on that before.
Yes.
For 3 years,
And that's
just as you suggested. And then we're gonna have another shot at this next year with the handbook.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8E, discussion only, how information is shared amongst the board. Corey, I believe you didn't send me any background information, so.
So this issue came up as a part of the last meeting where we were discussing the questions on policies, and Diane verbally said that if any member had a question on policy they would like to change, that she would share the response from Steve at Neola, or share their question with Steve at Neola. My concern is that if we're going to have meetings on subject matter that all the board has to take an action on, and have to be informed prior to the meeting, those things should be shared. Now, there was discussion about, well, if it's a personal question. Well, a personal question about understanding the policy is certainly relevant, but gaining an edge or a lead on trying to change a policy, that's not fair to every other member of the board, because it creates positions of advantage or disadvantage for the decision-making process. And it also slows the process down. It allows for manipulation of issues within small groups of the board and creates a situation where members can feel alienated or not up to speed on a subject matter before that meeting, thereby belching their participation or ability to push their input on the subject matter at hand. And Diane does not like interacting with me, very apparent in several meetings, so I appreciate that. The situation should be addressed so that we get everyone's input on those subject matters. Superintendent Schultz, when someone would ask a question of her, she would then share that to every board member so that everybody knew, here, this is an issue that could be coming up, and people could pay attention to it, and then prepare to speak on it at that meeting. There's nothing bad about that, just is encouraging communication amongst board members, which you had sent an email out that I unfortunately responded to all on, about wanting to improve communication, so we hope that that will continue. I also brought up the fact about the press release for Superintendent Schultz's retirement. And to which you said, well, the media was here and all this, I did this and that. I wasn't at that meeting. I don't know what was said. I wasn't even in town. I didn't get to see those broadcasts. Issues like that, where we're going to be approached outside of the meeting, we should all have the same message. Not a partial message, or not, well, if you were here, or, well, I told them that. A consistent message should be given. I think I just heard that phrase earlier in the discussion about cell phone policies. Imagine that. A lack of information sharing on a subject of that response for the superintendent leaving leaves the board looking uninformed and certainly ununified at a time of uncertainty for our district and its employees and its users. Today, I'm searching through the emails. I'm getting communication from emails on my Gmail account and on my school board account. So I've got to look at two. We have board members who don't use computers, who may not necessarily use email. I think that's as I stated earlier, I think that's a problem, making sure that the consistent information gets shared. That's a problem, and if communication is a problem within this district, we need to be consistent. That issue should come up some more. I'm going to make one motion on this discussion point, and if anyone has anything else to add, great. If not, I'll have said my piece.
Motion. It's a discussion only.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll wait till another time.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
Corey, if I remember correctly, I had brought up issues of certain board members being informed of things that other board members. I remember discussing this twice, and that's as far as it went. So I guess I strongly suggest, and I can't tell you what meeting, I know two of them, that we all check our Gmail accounts. Because things were being sent to the Gmail account, and I know a few of us, myself, were not checking that. So I guess I'm looking at what are you trying to offer us, or what's the solution?
I was told I couldn't make a motion.
We're not making a motion, I'm asking for your suggestions.
I'll bring it up under new business,
Okay.
That's all
You mean under future agenda?
or future agenda items.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, we'll move on to item 9, new business. Item 9A, discussion and possible decision acceptance of the fitness center equipment donation.
I would so move.
Oh,
That was easy.
thank you.
Discussion.
Okay. We have a motion by Mike Kaiser and a second by Matt Barnes Discussion? If not, you have all the information in your packet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item,
Can I just ask, have you seen my letter?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
You did, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you wanted it for tax purposes.
item 9B, discussion. Again, discussion only, school board's relationship with the Mosinee Community Athletic Association. Actually, Brent reached out to Bruce Jamrose, and I did happen to have some free time, so I went with him. And again, this is some information you received in your packet. He could not make it to tonight's meeting, but would like to come back in October, so this will be a future agenda item. He would like to basically revamp or resurrect the MCAA and go back with their original bylaws. He felt that the last couple, because none of the meetings were ever posted, was a concern. It felt that there were some other concerns that he'd like to kind of take this off the school district's hands as well. He did say that their phase is to complete the youth football field, hopefully in the fall or the spring. He also mentioned about WPS bringing in some power shortly, and the softball field, concession stand, and a baseball field. But again, there's no funds. And we didn't know about the guards, and I think he was gonna ask Steve.
2020, the guy will.
2020, and as well as the turf update and how it's gonna be able to keep it up. So this will be coming back in October, because he's reaching out to the individuals that this was first interpreted for, like members of the sports, coaches, or staff, and to get them back.
I need to correct your statement that there was no funding. The MCAA, through efforts mostly of Mr. Jamrose and Mr. Kaminsky, have raised it, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is it $90,000?
Yeah, they're 90,000.
$90,000
Well, to do what they want to
raised,
do.
and bulk of that's going to put in power to the facility. It's going to bring us additional green space to that facility. These are all things outside of any cost to the school district, so we're improving that land. Why this is not a decision point, I don't understand.
He was not ready to make it a decision, because he wants to come back in October and actually work up some type of lease
Well, wait a second.
agreement.
It's a lot of information that probably the rest of the board probably could be privy to. I don't know, you're a committee chair for that, or
I'm not.
how does that work?
I'm not, but, I study and I prepare for board meetings. I called Steve,
Was any of that information available
I
on,
called him this morning.
you called?
I said, what are we talking about tonight? And he said, we want to have the MCA control this, again, I talked to Diane about it. Her interpretation of the conversation is different, okay? So, I said, all right, well, we'll see what happens tonight. I know about the numbers because I've been keeping track of it. You've been a foe of the MCAA for.
Actually, don't try to inference my position. I just like
Your
to see the
actions
structure.
state your.
Okay, we're
position,
gonna-
but-
we're gonna move on.
No, I would like to have one.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
How is this going to affect that?
We really don't know at this point. It's kind of, I'm sorry, what was the year, Steve?
Yeah, I spoke to them this last week or so, because they've been all changing what they did. So
Right.
they're drawing to the heads to do the work that they can pull from them, and they're all going to different trainings. So they're kind of changing their whole mission, if you want to say it that way.
Okay.
So I don't, it's very unclear what they'll be able to provide, if anything, in the future. It's up to that.
Right. Again, this is gonna be coming back in October, and hopefully by then we'll have a couple more people back on board, and we can bring this back. Item C, discussion and teacher staff meeting. This is something, again, I'm pulling out from the school perception survey, and, I'm not exactly sure what the staff was saying back there. There's a lot of meetings. I know I did ask a couple questions about the team leader building meetings, and, at the time, I'm understanding a little bit better that we have 21 subs that we have to cover every single month for 4 hours out of the day. We always talk about consistency, and I guess I would rather see our staff in front of the classroom, in front of the students, for that consistency. So what I would like to see is maybe do is ask the administrators to work with this committee and maybe come back in October and maybe offer possible solutions or ideas on how we can maybe rework that for the upcoming school year. So we're not taking away class time from the kids and putting 21 subjects in a month in front of the students.
For sure.
I can work with
Well, it's only a half a day sub, correct?
Yeah.
It's a half day, and sometimes they're doing it over their prep period, so a lot of times it's not even a half day prep, it's
Right,
sometimes
it's kind of difficult because each one of the staff, from my understanding, is that they're in the compensation model that they receive. Well, money, yes, and then the subs. So I don't really know the total cost of it right now, but that's why I would like them to maybe come back in October and come up with some ideas once they meet with them and.
Yeah. Hey Diane, could we just ask a clarifying question, because we are more than willing to kind of look at that and brainstorm some other thoughts and possible solutions to that. Was it just the team leader meetings it was interpreted to be? Or
Well, it was difficult because the perception survey just said a lot of meetings that take up a lot of time, so, you know, maybe that's something.
The
Yes,
comment section
yes.
is kind of where it came out, okay.
Correct, so maybe that's, I mean, maybe there's something I'm missing, but.
Collaborative Mondays, I know sometimes
We've already
can be
been-
stressful.
we've had discussions about
No.
that.
So maybe that's
Not
something you
it.
guys can bring back and, I guess you tell me, because that's something I would like to show that we're listening to and see what we can look at to try
It
to.
would be helpful for us, maybe we need to do a little more information gathering on
Sure,
exactly
that would
what
be
combination of meetings, what meetings, just so we can,
Sure, that would be
Work with
great, and maybe you can
staff
talk when is your next team leader meeting? Is
team
it-
leader meetings are this week. actually.
Okay, so maybe you could, I mean, that's a lot of
Mine's on
staff, so
Thursday.
maybe you could line up with them,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Is there any other discussion? I mean, that was just, otherwise we can move on. Item 9E, discussion teachers and support staff compensation models. As you heard, we had a lot of discussion tonight from our staff that was here. I tried to get this on our last meeting agenda, but we had way too many things on there, so I'm sorry I couldn't bring it on last month. But I am bringing it as a discussion right now. We've heard some concerns, I've heard some concerns when I was walking out of the room at our last meeting. You know, I don't have the answers for you right now, unfortunately, but what I would like again is to have this come back in October. And maybe, you know, it's very hard to have board presence when you have these types of meetings, because they're always run during the day. So maybe next month, and I would ask maybe the personnel committee, if they could meet with members of the compensation committee and see if we can find out where some of these problems lie. And that's just, you know, I'm throwing that out there to you guys to try to come up with other ideas, but people, folks,
I would just state that I found it very informative. I appreciate the fact that so many of you came out tonight to share with us something that's obviously very important to your satisfaction as employees of the district. I'm not sitting here suggesting that we're gonna come up with a whiz-bang solution that satisfies everyone. I know that that's not the case, but I liked hearing from you, and thank you for coming and sharing that with us.
I mean, I Jess, now that you, and Jess is the lead now of the personnel committee, is this something that you guys could undertake and possibly put this on your agenda for next month?
What I would like to see is, but this is just my opinion, is that we have, because you guys are all the experts and probably have been perhaps to other districts and talked with other districts, what models out there work. So if you have some recommendations, some solutions where we could, either there's one potential good solution or we could work something in with what we currently have. Because again, according to the perception survey, the model that we have isn't that bad. It's the fact that the process of how people are placed in.
Right.
So if that is the case, then we have to work on that piece of it. But if you can, again, in the team leader meetings, talk about that, bring that information forward to the building administrators, and then we can start by working with the administrators on the bigger pieces, and then keep refining the process. That would be the way I would like to address that.
I'd like to also add that I think it's very important that they came to us and talked to us. But I think you also have to remember we are just the board. We are not the administrators. So there are only so many things we have control over and that we're able to do. And if everybody works together, we should be, but I don't think it's actually a problem that you and two other people need to sit down and when and if we get, well, we will, administrator in there. It's something that has to be looked at and not we know the mistakes, let's put it that way. So we'll go, my goal is to go from there, and so anything else you have that is wrong or needs adjusting, bring it forward and it should all be looked at.
But I think what we also have to remember is on the previous compensation committee, no board representation was there, and we need to be involved in that. So we ourselves understand, because look, when they were telling us about all these different inequities, we aren't that involved in it to be aware of it and follow what they're saying. So this way we'll be more informed of that as well.
Well, you probably weren't on the board at that time, but you received huge amounts of information on the formation of the compensation model. We got updates on the meetings. I attended a couple meetings. It was quite an involved process to get everybody involved into the lunch, which is to say that there was no board input.
But there wasn't, this past year, there was no board representation on there. That was what was told to us. So Carolyn and Matt Ellis chose not to participate.
Okay, so last year, sure, I'll give you that, but there wasn't also any grand wholesale changes.
I'm understanding and listening to the issues still turning to the placement and the deviation from those issues.
It's not, if I heard correctly, it's not that the model doesn't work, it's just that the,
I wasn't speaking that, I was just speaking the fact.
well, right,
In
and
the beginning,
that's,
there's a whole lot of information.
right, and we're just.
I'm not questioning their concern.
Right, okay.
Just say that.
So again, maybe you, if you guys are meeting again, with that, something to look for and bring back in October, we can fine tune that.
Is it gonna be the same committee members?
Well, and again, we really shouldn't address this, because we already had your chance in public forum, but that's something we can talk about in October and come back with a decision, but as long as they're meeting and you've got this big group of individuals meeting, I would suggest maybe talking to them and bringing up your concerns, and we will bring this and make a decision then at next month in October. So, because then we're gonna have a little bit more information as well.
What kind of decision?
Well, if there will be a decision and a change. Because right now, there is no board representation, and we don't know what the answers are.
I just would say, I'm doing this to help you tonight, be careful what you say, because we're gonna have a decision on, because you don't know which way it's gonna go.
Right.
So don't promise what we can't deliver.
Is there any other discussion? All right, we are moving on to item 10, the building committee report.
Okay, and that would be.
Why do you want to take some time out? If anybody would like to say something about them, please give me the time.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then myself.